Yes. This is the usual exercise that we do in support of the preparation of the budget and its presentation to Parliament. So I'm sure that you're well aware of the procedure that is involved in this hearing. But on behalf of the committee, thank you so much for coming. We have with us the assessments that have been made in relation to your head, and I will open up the query to members of the committee to be able to ask questions to you, Madam Secretary. But welcome to the committee this afternoon as we consider your proposals in the bill. In terms of head, head 5, Ministry of Education, you are asking for 1.3 billion in recurrent, and in development, it is to the tune of 83 million. There is also a provision, development budget, members, some 1.5 billion. As part of the 1.5 billion, something like 637 million, I think, is non-appropriated. Look, you may reverse, go back more. This year we appropriated what has not been appropriated last year in the 2025 Appropriation Act, and then you may reverse more. Let me begin with that question. Why is it that, or what was the explanation given to you by the budget division as to the reason for not including that in the appropriation? Can we begin with that question first? Let's go to the non-appropriated appropriated provision in the development budget. I think you have a provision of 863 million. Are you aware of that? 163 million is non-appropriated.
ADB with the UNICEF.
Yeah. So, thank you, Chair, for the welcome and for us to respond to the questions that you may raise in relation to our 2026 budget estimate. So, to respond to your question, where was that amount not appropriated? You would note that the budget support that we receive from other donors, particularly from ADB for the Senior Secondary Education Improvement Project, which has started this year, as well as Global Partnership for Education, which is utilized through UNICEF. Those are the key ones that do not appear in the relevant budget head. And the regions, well, I'm not really sure the position that the MOB might have for not factoring this into our budget. But if you look at, our, historically, this is our first time to access funding from ADB through loan and grants, but as well as the GPE funding that we have sought, which is the initiative of my ministry to seek additional funding so that we can be able to reform the education system that we have. So I'm not really sure why these have not been factored. We would like to have this factored into the budget, but they don't seem to appear. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. fair answer. It's probably an answer that we will, when we recall we are going to reconvene again and then ask the Minister of Finance to come. We will ask them on that. But just some kind of a background information on the budget performance or allocations, over the past 4 years. I think the trend seems to show that there is an increase, both in terms of quantum allocation. To the current year, I think you are receiving something like 1.4 billion. In terms of development budget support, from development to recurrent, it shows the same. I think this year, roughly around 89% on recurrent, and development is around 5 or 4.9%. So that is the divide ratio of recurrent and development that you have. There is an increase year-to-year growth, something like about 22%.
Yeah.
So I think, are you happy with that kind of a trend in terms of budget allocation? Before we come to some of the details that others might want to ask, just what's your comment on that?
Thank you, Chairman. Am I happy with the increase in our main budget? Of course, I can ask for more. But what can be made available to us is something that we really appreciate. And our dialogue and negotiation with the Minister of Finance have been very good in terms of the financial capacity that we need so that we can reform the education system, particularly the quality of education. So you would have noticed, especially in this year's budget, the recurrent, all right, it has increased considerably. For example, we have to cater for the back pay of teachers, which is based on the agreement that we had with Center in September. There are also increases in some activities that we have identified for next year in our annual work plan. For example, we have recommenced what we call INSET. This is in-service training of teachers on the revised curriculum that we have developed. In the last 2 years, we have developed and have printed teaching and learning materials for both primary and secondary education, and we need to introduce this to our teachers. The other bid that we forwarded to the Minister of Finance is to do with vernacular education, or something international, it's called a multilingual program, where we focus on the vernacular language of a district and try to help teachers so that they can teach in the local vernacular, as well as translate some of the materials into the local language so that learning can happen longo saburu blogata pikinini. Yeah, because there is research all over the world which indicate that when a child learns in his own language, learning can improve considerably in terms of understanding what they read, instead of the calculations they do, and so forth. The other bid that was accepted, and I'm so thankful to the Minister of Finance, is to do with second chance education. Yeah. So this is a challenge, because if you examine carefully stigmas associated with second chance education. These students who discontinued their education, I don't want to call them dropouts because it has some connotation associated with them. So these are students who have discontinued their education at the various levels of education system, and there have been expressions of them wanting to continue with their education, irrespective of the fact or the circumstances that they went through, and so forth. So those are the three additional funding that we sought and have been appropriated or considered. On the development budget, there are two components of the development budget. One is for SINU, mainly for infrastructure projects, capital projects. So this year, like last year and the previous year, it has not changed. 50 million normal. But for this year alone, for the Ministry of Education, it has been increased from 16 million to 30 million. So 50 plus 30 is almost 80 million under the development budget. And I think it's only about 7% of the development budget that is distributed to all in all ministries. We are happy with that, although we know we need more, but we are also looking at the capacity, right? The workforce that we have, because the education infrastructure that we administer or manage is about building extra classrooms, dormitories, convenience rooms, and so forth. So we should be able to use that funding to support the constructions of those classrooms, dormitories, as well as other facilities in the schools, so that they have improved infrastructure. Not forgetting that our donors are also supporting us with the infrastructure because, financing the education sector is very challenging. It's not only, it doesn't only involve construction of new classrooms or ambulance blocks, but also maintenance, repair of those existing classrooms or facilities. So, with the funding that we have received from ADB, we should be able to use it to support infrastructure development in 10 identified secondary schools. DFAT is also investing in infrastructure. In fact, the program that they have for the next 8 years is going to focus on two components. One is to support my ministry in terms of school infrastructure, and we are going to focus on senior secondary education development, infrastructure. This is where the bottleneck is. So if you look at the statistics that we have, enrollments of students or pupils at primary and junior secondary, we are doing fairly well given the financial support that we have been given over the years. But when you look at the senior secondary, that is where the bottleneck is. So we have come up with a plan. It's a 5-year plan, and we are going to implement it as of next year. And the finances that we are receiving from DFAT is going to help us increase the number of infrastructure in schools so that we can accommodate extra students, those who wish to do senior secondary education. So for next year, and probably you might want to ask the details on this. We have already identified how many infrastructure projects we are going to start with using DFAT finance, as well as the development budget that we have secured, and 10 schools that were identified to be supported by ADB. So overall, those are the three components of our budget proposal for next year. That's the recurrent, development, and donors budget support. I think I've provided you some information on the presentation that we would like to share with you on those key areas, and particularly we have provided explanatory notes to help you respond to some of the areas in which you might want to pose questions or make comments on. So, this three-page sheet of paper, no, it's 4 pages. It provides you some information on those budget estimates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PS. Any other questions from members, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, PS, for MLE funding. Every year, me reminding you, this year you follow Baro Putum inside, so me praise him master and me praise him you too. Yeah, it's given the results of pilots that were done, Tawatana and Losa last time, I think this is a really good direction to take. So I do wish to register my appreciation for now beginning. This one start no more. The rollout, you must roll them out. Let's see that it succeeds, Lomakira, and then we see how by me move go vela more and rolang more. Also, I encourage you to keep at it, and teacher training and something important, and the materials obviously. So I wish to register my appreciation and congratulations, Lo, you follow this one. In terms of your overall recurrent budget, payroll represents a huge chunk of it. So Sadlo teachers, recently you had an agreement, I think, or look that one more. Perhaps you could update the committee. Yeah. What now? If I agree, Sadlo teacher benefits. The second largest component now, Sadlo scholarships. So again, if you can update the committee on that. We note you say here there's a 15% drop reduction in scholarship, but you're putting that to efficiency gains because you're getting more realistic data on costs. We want to see the numbers, Los Angeles scholarships. Does that represent an increase in number of students in tertiary institutions? What kind something also might be useful? So those are my first two questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll start with the update on the agreement that we signed with Sinta. It was a good dialogue. So we negotiated what the Sinta demanded on behalf of the teachers. And what I'd like to share with you is that the process for improving terms and conditions for teachers was accelerated. In fact, we had a plan based on the Education Act, which is the legal basis for responding not only in terms of professional development of teachers, but also well-being blockade them, because we got to make them happy so that our children can be educated. So there were a total of 7 demands, 3 of which, so the demands now, I think I'll go through this. The first one is to do with recognition of teachers in terms of the contracts that we used to administer under the former Act. So under the former Act, under Teaching Service Manual, Handbook, teachers were contracted, right? what we have decided, and it's in the Education Act and the relevant section of the Education Regulations 2024, teachers will not be contracted. It's an ongoing employment. And that's an advantage in terms of the security that would like him. Yeah? So we have gone back and explained to Cinta, and we also send messages through a radio program that in terms of security, we have assured teachers that, it's ongoing employment. But for those teachers on special cases, for example, those effective teachers who might be retired, but they are healthy and still active, they can be put on contract, but for a specific period. So it's a fixed term appointment. So that's something that we teachers really appreciate, because by the time teachers retire at the age of 55, there are some who are very active, very useful in terms of supporting teachers, students to learn better. So we need to keep them until an assessment is done. The second one is to do with let me just security and experience. Okay, the second demand was to recognize teachers' experience in the new teacher classification and salary structure that we devised and implemented on the 15th of May this year. So there were grievances raised in terms of the job evaluation that we conducted. So we explained to them that there were 4 key factors that we considered in the evaluation of teachers, what teachers do to be able to determine the new teacher classification and salary structure. So, time people explained in Sinta during the dialogue and negotiation, they appreciated the response that we had. The next one is teacher salary backdate, backdate pay. So you would recall that since 2013, when we had the last strike by teachers, there hasn't been any strike until the notice we received this year. The reason that we have teachers not threatening industrial action is simply because we have worked very closely with the Sinta in terms of the welfare and the discussions that we held. But although there has been COLA awarded to teachers, we're not looking COLA as salary increase, right? Like what they expect when they ask the ministry to increase salary based on those circumstances that we consider, as well as factors, so that we can continually look after teachers' welfare. So when we explain details of the factors that we use to determine teacher classification and salary structure and the levels that we came up with, they were happy. Although the actual amount they received, because of different opinions, there were indeed some who were not pleased. But overall, we received good responses, especially those teachers who were satisfied with the increase. But because we had not been able to increase teachers' pay over the last 10 years, so what I demand them now that backdated to 2014. And it's so we negotiated and agreed that people backdate them by 7% to January 2024. So that would cost us $129 million. And we agreed that we would include it in next year's budget and the Ministry of Finance has incorporated it, and the cabinet has approved. So it's just a matter of paying teachers come next year. The other thing is how often we should review teacher salaries. So there were a couple of suggestions, but we agreed that teacher salary should be reviewed every 5 years. So beginning January next year, for the next 5 years, by MIPLA review, so that we don't end up in a situation where we have collaborated together, understood each other, and then MIPLA leave, because of the reform that we were conducting, including the new legislation, which would help us to legalize, the new scheme of salary. And so MIPLA agree with them, what I like them to. The other one is early childhood education and technical and vocational education training and special needs teacher salary. If you have been following the payment process that we conducted, you would have noted that we did not pay EC teachers as well as TVET teachers and a few special needs teachers. Okay? The reason being that the data that we need to verify from education providers was not forthcoming, and so we had to act quickly to pay primary and secondary school teachers. But it didn't mean that we were not going to pay them. It's a process. You do something first time, and you look to the capacity of the government in terms of the revenue and the budget that we have. But the good thing that we did was that we factored the budget, this year's budget, to pay EC teachers on the new, based on the new salary structure and classification. And so that is what we have done. So we have fixed the relevant education regulations to cater for EC teachers. Remember, ECE teachers are catered for under the Education Act. So we're going to pay them before they go for their Christmas holiday. What about the TVET teachers? We do not have a legislation for TVET at the moment. So we have sought advice from the Attorney General's chamber for advice. If there is no legislation, what could we use as a basis for paying TVET teachers? Because legal matters matter in this case. But we have progressed the work that we need on the classification, and here we are talking about 439 TVET teachers. So the work on the classification and salary structure for TVET teachers has proceeded, and it's almost complete. So our plan is, if we receive the legal advice, then we should be able to implement that in December as well. So that's, then the last one is long and dedicated service benefit. In fact, this was a non-issue because we have been paying retired teachers at the end of their budget, the time they should be teaching retirement. So this is to do with retired teachers. So we have been paying them, so it's not an issue, but we have to get back to Sinta and the teachers that, look here, this is ongoing something somewhere, and we are continually paying teachers their long service benefit. The other one is to teachers' housing and travel. One thing our teachers and the ministry have been observing is some of the developments that are and treatment that's given to public servants. So you be part of the whole system, or the like him. Same treatment you been giving to public servants, or the like him too. And I think they deserve it. No, I shouldn't say thing. They deserve it. But, so because currently, based on the budgets, we have cut all the way. People are using no more, it's budget no more. It's not enough. So we have established a task force, composition of task force, Sinta members, Otalo Prime Minister's Office, Mipalo Ministry, Finance and Public Service. So from what I've been updated this week is that they have collected all the data that they needed to develop those two policies. Now, this one by Mipala implemented 2027, yeah, not next year, because budget pressed upon next year, it's there. So we got to face it. And that's the agreement that we reached with Sinta. Final one, teachers are not pleased with the education providers, especially in relation to the incentives that they should provide so that teachers happy time will save under those education providers or before education authorities. There are some education providers who are capable or they have the financial capacity. And so they're providing incentives like, pre-gas, top-up travel, yeah? But not all education providers are rich. There are some who are struggling, yeah? So it's a difficult one. It's easy for us to say in Mipalo Ministry, okay, EP, can you raise your contribution so that you help him teacher or complement what government is doing? Then I'm going to come back and say, when I'm going to take him selling. Yeah, because example, what depend on tight no contribution from the followers. So this is a difficult one. So we have discussed this at our level, senior management team, and currently, we are developing a policy so that people are raising now requirement to become an education provider. So it might mean there has to be a surety of, say, $100,000 that the EP must guarantee all the time, or even the best place, so that one now an indication that EP is serious now operating schools here, and that that the EP will be able to use that. So that is the idea that is plotting. And we are going to discuss this or table a paper to the education board, as well as to do consultation, so that we can be able to determine the minimum amount that EPs must always have in their bank accounts, apart from the grants that we provide to them, so that we can help our teachers who are struggling. I think that's how. That's the responses that I can provide at this point in time. Scholarships. I have the following numbers in terms of scholarships. One good thing, Mr. Wait, I'm going to something first time, yeah?
Please.
Based on the USP graduation as well as senior. You know what? This year's graduation, as last year, USP, girls now outperform more than boys. More girls are graduating than boys. The same is true for SINU. More females are graduating. So success rate at the tertiary level than girls, yeah. They came up now, yeah. I think there has been a lot of gender balance awareness, and modern Solomonians parents are investing in the education of their daughters. But there could be other things as well. And it's nothing to do with the girls clever than boys, yeah? So in terms of completion of degrees and qualifications based on this year, there were 346 graduates. Those who continued students is about 2,218, and for next year's scholarship, in fact, in the plan, there was an indication of 1,400 scholarship. We have cut it to 1,000 to the original number that we have been offering for the past year, simply because of budget pressure that we are experiencing in the ministry. Okay, so that's the number of scholarships. But we also consider those who ask for extensions. But this time, we follow a very strong criteria, so that we award or consider those extension applications only those that deserve. So we have tightened also the scholarship so that, based on the performance of students during the period in which the scholarship is going to be tenured, like 3 or 4 years, as long as they achieve 50% of the total course year, or the passing, final year, if there are remaining courses that they need to complete before, that one, belong student. We cannot continue to support students this way, like we have been too generous. Yeah, but we have been generous for one reason, from our ministry perspective. Knowing that, Umilo solo now participation rate below Umilo tertiary education is lower than even the small Pacific Island countries like Cook Islands, Samoa. Yeah? So Mipala one day push on Mokada so that they complete their qualification. And that has an impact, positive impact. More students graduating, but it taking longer than what we anticipated. And we have found that there were indeed some professional students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PS.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to follow through?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. PS, let's just go back to payroll issues and the collaborative work or approach you've taken with Sinta. That's very commendable. Me worry once go you stop PS now, next PS come back with a raw. So sometimes you PS lo there, no go on strike. So and you and then General Secretary blow Sinta too, baru me.
Yeah.
Last time I tell him for cut him hair blame, but this time I tell him leave him hair because you all work good too much together. When he strike, we don't want any days missed or classroom. Teachers going on strike, and as you quite rightly point out, Good, there is no reason why teachers should ever be treated inferior in terms of benefits to the rest of the civil service. So this one, Good, it's taken a long time, but now that you've achieved it, it's highly commendable. So, Good. I'm just a little concerned, side law education providers. Hear me true. Education providers must have some means, but I think it might be a little bit, sure what the word is, but me just think mi will sikos no more. Mi will run himself school, mi will post yosna, mi will run by faith. Sometimes I would say run by air, but no, mi will run by faith. If you say must garem 100,000 lo account, I think mi will must garem 100 man. Then you run the risk of where we're actually having some cults coming into the country now, and they're deep-pocketed. And of course, if money is the criteria, they should run all of our schools. And then we have social, societal concerns. So I think you need to be a little bit more circumspect when you come to these considerations. Them no fall down heavy law. You have to think that this sector is involved in the human formation. Barav base sector blue in education. We form of course, character development belongs in the family and in the church and community, but education is how government and whole goal of that fella aspect. So therefore the role of the church is barav critical to us. So I think I would be encouraging you to fund them adequately as opposed to require them to fund. Forget the church, established churches, believe me, where you got a track record with him. So impose him, you must get him selling law account. If you also tuval sios mi sa tuval garno garam selena on na United Church and on wal now sikosi. Ogat alright little bit because otman tight all way. So I would just caution you on that aspect lo him. Any comment on this one?
Yeah, I take note of your advice, and as I said, we were just toying around that thinking no more as an option. Yeah, but we won't conclude this until we have consulted the church EPs as well as the public parents and those stakeholders that we need to consult.
And then in terms of scholarships, you're right, we have been overly generous. And, low USPs, like a student daranga time scholarship I'm going, it really is a terrible thing, but it's quite a widespread practice. We have been overly generous for too long as well. So I'm not sure reducing the number of students is right. I don't think so. I think it should still be increasing, but reducing the scholarship benefits, I think, is both rational and would still enable them to complete their studies without acting like hooligans when they get their scholarship awards and then not go to darang all about it. Not everybody, but quite a number. It's not a good reflection on you, me too, especially lo USP na me here this one. But also lo senior lo side lo mo moving away from full scholarships to tuition only scholarships. That would then, the same amount of resource can cover a lot more students. I know that you've changed policy on this one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether across the board or just for the constituency ones. But I think if it's across the board, we should be able to fill up. Senior should be recruiting 20,000 students. So perhaps you could update the committee on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an important undertaking that we are conscious based on your recommendation, PSC recommendation last year, I think. So the 2026 round of scholarship, which the assessment and selection process has begun, they are going to take special consideration of that recommendation so that, in fact, we are looking at the number of scholarships that are going to be tenured for SINU. And I'm not really sure that would also include MP scholarships. I think currently it's 5, yeah? So there was a need to increase. Pipe now allocated is MP or 8?
Constituency?
No, it has been increased from 4 to 5 based on the intervention of our minister.
Senior here. I'm not true. Minister said apum lo 20, but the tuition only.
Yeah, so I think that is going to be factored. So the details will be made known to the assessment and scholarship, selection committee who have begun that work. So there has been a slight increase along scholarship budget. I mean, there's a reduction, is it?
Grant. MP's
okay. Yes, Colby, can you help on this based on what you have produced in the pie chart?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, PS. In terms of the increase of scholarship for the MP, what has been increased here is under MP's scholarship grant. That usually been 20 million. It's now been increased for allocated of an additional 10 million. So it is now 30 million for annual MP scholarship award grant for each MP.
That one different from 5Ale.
Yeah, correct.
And 5Ale lo senior.
Correct.
But 5Ale now by tuition only by 20 now starting next year.
So based on the recommendations of the minister, so that increase would be able to accommodate the number that will be allocated to MPs position only.
Very good.
Yeah.
29.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
So is that, sorry, yes. So, mina follow me to good here.
Okay.
So that increased from 20 to 30. Is that, that's the education grant?
Education grant.
This is the education grant? From this one? Oh. Is this a scholarship or the education grant?
Okay, the label belongs for MP's grant, yeah. Change, yeah, every now and then. So this time I'm going to call them indication scholarship grant. Last time was indication grant. So when MPs look at indication grant, Ota apply them long, tertiary indication, secondary indication, and ECE too.
Okay.
So strictly speaking, this time, well, that's my assumption, because it will be applied differently by different MPs. But we got to manage this, yes. So when it's under the scholarship, by scholarships for those tertiary students, but it could also mean scholarship for those secondary school students who attend them schools where fees and charges are quite considerable.
Okay, Kamlo teaches here. Really impressed that, you have done that fine job on the Mother Sinta for continue with the dialogue and see the way forward for you, Miss, a better improve more the issues that Sinta Reggie wanted me about all the teachers here. So I joined sentiments shared by the member for Auckland. Just for the teachers we are posted lot rural schools here. So what will happen to them if, say for instance, those rural communities or what do they call them now, ESP, Education
Providers.
Or EP normal, yeah? You don't put in the S in between, yeah? Nugutimi go wrong. ESP, yeah. Just leave that S out and then maintain him EP normal. So in a situation where they don't have houses, yeah? What will be the arrangement? Can they be given something and they rent houses, Lord, communities, yeah? Or is that the kind of options that you are considering, or?
Thank you for that question. My take of your question in relation to those teachers who are out in the remote parts of the country, they are serving under an EP.
Okay.
Yeah? So it could be United Church, SSC, Roman Catholic, or others.
Or could be other private EPs.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it?
Private, yeah, because the Education Act is making provision
for that, yeah.
for who can become an EP. So, in terms of accommodation for teachers out there or in the urban centers, okay, for those EP, we are going to provide them housing for staff and the communities, yeah, like in boarding schools. But those teachers who have returned and decided to teach in their village, in those remote parts, yeah, sometimes build them own houses block and then rent them local silver.
Okay.
Right? So that's why we have decided to understand more about the issues that they are facing. Okay. That's the task force that we established for accommodation for teachers as well as patients, yeah? Annual leave block. But for annual leave, we don't have to do much because what government more for public service have no more, but people put them across no more. So it's just the process that we are going to use that should be highlighted in that policy. But for teacher housing, of course, we have to look at those specific things, which schools or EP now provide them housing, who not no more. And so we have to look at those and then come up with some policy to guide us helping those teachers in terms of having accommodation, and if no more accommodation, what are the alternatives that we can come up with? Yeah.
Thank you, PS. No new Chair.
Thank you, Chair. We'll join him, Chair and Leader of Opposition, for thanking PS and our group law Ministry of Education for the work you have done so far. Some good and interesting messages now come. Here, let me make a comment number 2. One about EP and the pictures. Chair, Ting Bloom is, as we go forward, work with the EPs. Then we finish him off now. Everyone come under ministry now. We are creating problem for ourselves. If we just go, they will be like our agents working for the ministry out there. Because you look at the provinces, every officer will know IPS. The churches and other private one no more have now different, but all others employ you no more. You may get away with it. Leaving EP as an employer, but some EP as help us blow ministry now. So that ministry him taking all the responsibility. In that way, by him putting teachers and public service together. Him no more this problem. But as we go through, work along with it, and then find a way where him break out no more, and then go that way. Yes, we will talk about cost and all this and all that. Costs will never come down. They will never come down. So maybe one for idea for put him or same. So that's one. 2, we like congratulate him ministry Chair for come up, and this time him look like I'm very practical now. This was a second chance policy by him worker. By him worker after writing it and keeping it by him worker. Me para to thank you peace. Yeah, and even further to suggest peace that this was MP scholarship here. I mean, under Kiablo ministry. You are the accounting officer. You just put him a little bit rule. 100,000, 50,000, him for second chance. Then everyone using for second chance now. Then make him policy here, him come strong. In that way, we will also help Sino, especially the distance and flexible learning here. Because a second law, my view, no more. If you send him someone for go second chance law secondary school, but by feeling him, by him different. Him just go out from secondary school here. Then if you put him go back there, and by he might work somewhere, but in other places he might not work. But what we want to do is encourage them, and I think that distance learning now one for a good opportunity. Yeah? And I think this is where I'm looking. You know, give him full scholarship grant here. You say X amount and for second chance learning. Then you meet everyone together, you may come up with them. This was a new development here. I make them policy him work now. And when we see it happens, maybe more attention, but by go look at it. Some of our best students are still waiting out there, yeah? Waiting second chance. But no, just no provide them the opportunity. This is a good opportunity. Let's take this chance now. Must move fast. I think that's my encouragement to the ministry. Yeah? And thank you very much, PS. Next year, ako mo second chance.
PS.
Yeah.
Yeah, your response, please.
And the other thing
Okay, there's another one?
No, just to add on.
Yeah.
In secondary school, we are educating a student. In a second chance, we are educating +1. Because we might be educating a young mother. That's the difference. I think big help, by go law. second chance. Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
How me looking. So we need to.
Like support him too, yeah. But me haram liu piece, Mr. Please.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful, your thoughts, sharing about what we might be able to do under the next reform for terminate them EPs or give a lesser responsibility than what is today. You would vividly remember around in the 90s, there was a study conducted by Penderson and Vasuka.
Yeah.
The study focused on the idea if we can phase out the responsibility of EP. And you know what? When we went around and consulted, what EPs of course came for So that's why we have, because all over the world, education administration and happen at school level, the principal and team of teachers. That's what you need. But when you have hierarchies, that's where the problems come in, or the struggles or challenges. So as we talk straight normal school, yeah, the principal, I mean, really good, yeah. So I think there's no harm in revisiting that idea and to reconcile the EPs and see what their reaction is, and then we can do something about it. In terms of second chance education, I cannot agree more than what you have expressed. I think there's a need to reach out to those our young people who have decided to discontinue their education. They need to be given another pathway in which they can realize their own potential and become the person they should be. Sure. And we have a long discussion with the SINU Faculty of Education and Humanities Distance Flexible Learning Center team. Yeah? They've already formulated the program. What they are waiting for is curriculum packages from us so that they can be able to use it to help those students that would like to continue with education. So I brought some curriculum materials. Did we? If you want to have a look, at the end of the session, I'm not here to impress you on what we are doing, but these are classical examples of the reform that we have carried out.
Excellent.
And these are sort of materials that we want to make available through distance flexible learning, so that those kids who have suddenly realized the need for them to continue with education can be given a second chance. And this is a pathway. And you know what SINU has done? And creative now, it's called a foundation program, so that going through those who didn't have had the chance to continue to that level, and then by the help of apply for diploma undergraduate courses at SINU. That's the beauty about the new design. It can only work if we support them financially.
Sure. Exactly.
And that's the challenge. They got the people, the brains that have been rethinking and try to explore what is possible. This is creativity. And come from our own people. And this is the direction in which we are going. So we are pleased about it. We can only support at a minimal level. So we started with 1 million. Probably next year, I don't know what it's going to be like. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah,
Mayor for West Korea. Yes.
In terms of education level, where we got at the moment, like we have the primary level, the secondary and tertiary level. I'd like to know which level now, what RTC our Tibet or the Lohem. That's the first comment. The one is if they are in the tertiary level, like technical and skill level plus C2 how Amy sabi providing scholarship slot level with the RTCs and something. It's just I'd like to know your view about this.
Thank you so much for that very important question. Let me just briefly provide some information on the policy framework that we are working on. And I'll say something about the classification that we are developing for TVET teachers. Yeah? But you made reference to the minimum qualification that is required of a person to teach at ECE, primary and secondary. So recently, we have been working on the minimum qualification. So like ECE and pre-primary, the minimum, this is the minimum qualification, yeah. Diploma na. Mi pala want to get rid of a certificate na, yeah.
Good one.
Yeah. For those who we expect to teach at secondary level, we will look for undergraduate. Those who have Bachelor of Education or a specialized discipline but have methodology under to their qualification. Now, TVET teachers. So, currently, there's disparities long when you look at the levels of primary school teachers and secondary school teachers. The more qualified a person is, the more I'm taking. But long structure that people got him have positions here. Yeah. So you imagine a primary school teacher with a certificate, him by paid to a different level, yeah, as opposed to the diploma holder teaching at the primary level. Because of the different qualifications, they are paid differently, but they do exactly the same amount of work. Teaching, preparing lessons, extracurricular activities. So they are now sometimes teachers comparing what they do and their qualification. So some people are not happy. So if we have, the minimum or some undergraduate, that would be good. But TVET teachers, in fact, if you examine the qualification of TVET teachers, nearly everyone, yeah, the highest qualification, him diploma no, yeah, most certificate no more. But they are involved in skills training. And so what we have done in the work that we have done on classification and salary structure, mi pala go luku now, classification and salary structure for SINU, particularly for those lecturers who are teaching trade courses here. Yeah. So we want to pitch out teachers along rural training centers and the technical colleges like Don Bosco, somewhere between the secondary school teachers and lecturers at university, yeah, with, or even same with Democata. Because if you look carefully along training that is involved along technical or vocational training institutions, yeah, man, him about skills development, yeah, competence-based education now to call them, where they master certain skills before they go to the next level. So what I'm saying essentially, and I'll stop, that TVET teachers need a special treatment. They cannot be compared with ordinary, secondary, or primary school teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, what you're sharing with us, because they have to be treated like that. Otherwise, we will be no equity for them here. So, thank you, PS, for clarifying that, and I think that is the way to go. I would encourage you to continue to work on that policy and to have it incorporated in that Education Act.
Yeah.
I think there has to be an amendment to the Education Act to feature TVET in that legislation. I know that you've been working on it. Thank you for doing that. Just structurally on the budget itself, as I've presented to you, if you look at it, the recurrent and the development, there is a good combination there, but in the way that some of the exercise that we have done, it shows that, there is still a very under-resourcing on the development side. But we are quite encouraged with the way that the Ministry of Finance have come up with the fiscal, some of the fiscal guidelines that they have incorporated in the current year for the 2026 preparation of the budget year. That is the makeup of the recurrent to development on a ratio of 80 to 20. Yeah, 80 to 20%. With the exercise that we have done over here, it would appear that for the current year, yours would be around, I lost my paper, but I think it would be around 90-something and 5% or something like that. Yeah? Recurrent would be around 90% on a ratio. And the ratio is expressed on the total budget allocation from within your own sector itself. But I don't think that captures the budget support. Yeah? The budget support and other non-appropriated. For the general, I stand to be corrected on this, but I think that's how I work it out from even a paper blue. Yeah, I think somewhere there. Yes. So you have a, like what I said earlier on, PS, tracking it from the last 4 years, the fiscal spread over the last 4 years. There seems to be an overall quantum. This year you have got a significant one. But I think on the downward side, year to year, or year on year, relatively around 22.2%. That's not bad, because we need to continue to resource you, as what other members have shared, and I totally agree with them. Just on that mix no more, that for this year, on the current to, what's this? Current to development, yeah, I think it would be around 5.7% to about 94%, something like that, yeah? Spread. Yeah. That is on putting the test, yeah, the ratio test into what you would really think you are going to do in terms of the development spending. Development spending. That will have an impact on, well, that is not to say that recurrent spending does have an impact on certain thematic things that, we would want it to do, yeah? Transformative, whatever form, yeah? But I think the guideline that has been given by the Ministry of Finance, 80 to 20%, is a good one. But if you look at the current strength of your ratio spending, it would be around 94% to 5% development, 94 no more long side low recurrent, or 94 now it's on a higher low recurrent emotion. So what's your thinking? Do you think that this has to change next year? Are you going to shift that emphasis next year, and then put the recurrent on a downside, and then you give more on the development? Because just talking about, what you have in mind, for instance, on the expansion on investment that we need to do to teachers themselves, right in the rural areas, yeah, it will require huge investment there, emotion, yeah, on infrastructure to keep the teachers there. Of course, there will be a supporting recurrent spending to be able to have a sustained incentives for teachers going forward into the future, like that. The expansion program on the second chance, for instance, in our tertiary institution, those will require, development budget spending, Amazon. So what is your thinking next year? Will this change? Are you committed to have these changes, to shift that ratio, current to development, to, push him down to 80% na belong recurrent and 20% on the development, something like that. Right now, image is a little bit different, yeah? Yeah. Only 5% no more you spend him on development. 94%, yeah, I'm not recurrent, yeah. That much. Or could be that you will, next year, might ended up doing some further restructuring in the education budget spending. MOSM, yeah? And if that is the route that you will have to follow, what will it take? MOSM, yeah? What's your thinking on that, PS? Or could be that what Chamvala or the budget support and other donor funding that Babahem come in said they will give you a little bit of space for you to make some adjustment next year? What's your take on that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really like your comment and the question that you have posed, because you are bringing in your perspective of the economy of the education sector. Yeah? A topic that I've been quite interested in, especially in relation to how much number you need him to keep the education system buoyant,
Sure.
so that you can run the schools and other activities that are done, which is described as recurrent. And on the other hand, you have development budget, where you create activities as part of the reform, but those that would contribute to improvements into those new areas. So the ratio that you have referred to, like recurrent, 94% and probably 5% now blown development budget. The very reason why we have sought help from our development partners, so that they can be able to support it with budget support. And people go as far as loan too, yeah? So it was quite difficult, but we managed to convince the Ministry of Finance so that we can loan $100 million apart from $300 million grant from ATB. And we wrote a proposal and sought finance from GPE. So we have received 11.5 million US dollars for the next 2 to 3 years. So, yeah, we have not stopped to what the government can provide, but we have also looked at what now internationally or financial institutions who can help us. So, you see, we have the long-term education sector framework, 2016-2030. It's very ambitious, but we need to be ambitious to be able to create opportunities for young people, for our growing population. Those areas that activities which is not related to recurrent activities to maintain the education system. These are developments like expansion of the senior secondary education, curriculum development, professional development, or IT, ICT. People can't maybe plan for that, yeah. Sure. But we can only tap into 5% of the development budget. It has been our wish, and we are so thankful to the Ministry of Planning and Finance that they were able to increase our development budget from 16 to 30 million next year. But going forward, and with a growing population and the demand for education to those levels, we've got to look at the economics of education there. And for that, one of the questions that the economists usually ask me, how do you translate the investment into those outcomes in terms of the skills workforce that you're producing? And how much have you produced so far with that investment? That's a difficult question, but it can be answered, provided that we have the data. And so, for our country, where we are in terms of economic and social development, and education comes under the social sector, we need to invest more in those areas to develop further our education system. Sure. It's only that way we can be able to provide the workforce with those skills that we are looking for in the next 10 to 15 years. So, whichever government of the day will need to support the Ministry of Education, because we have a long-term plan as well as a national education action plan. Some of our objectives are quite ambitious, but it's good to be ambitious. What we need is financial support, dedicated financial support for that period of time. what is happening now is that Otadona now are chipping.
Sure.
Therefore, we are able to get to where we are today. Thank you.
P.S., I'm really impressed with the keenness that you have portrayed in on this matter. And if I were you, by me respond, Lord Shalaman, by asking you a question, how do you value it? It's a labor market.
Yeah.
That determines the consumption in the economy. You must understand that the labor market is the most important determinant of consumption, spending within the economy, which is one of the fastest means of holding the economy to grow. So if you look at some of the advanced economy right now, they are resorting to consumer spending.
Yeah.
But that has to come with education. So I like your thinking too. And I want you to continue to think about, how you will actually shift that, structure that whole financing arrangement here from recurrent to development. Something that is more productive, where I am by lead up to developing the labor market locally. Today we are still struggling with how do we assemble our own labor market. Right now, we rely on the figure of the National Provident Fund here. Oh, number go up, so I think I'm not representing the employment situation. No, we should come back to our own inventory of what we are training, because I don't want other economies to mistreat us. Where other look, these guys don't even know what's the size of their labor force and what is the quality of their labor force. So, PS, me but really happy too much that you think along that line. And I really wanted to, even me praising Motolo Ministry of Finance, that they have started to come up with rules as to how they model him now, the making up of the budget. Yeah? So that it makes accounting officers, you managers, to think how you're going to make them into real assets for the country. Real assets. Those spending that goes into the development. Now, what we should be having here. Managers, accounting officers that think more critically and enterprisingly in converting what now spending within the public sphere something that is more of a valuable development assets for the country. So, yeah, I'm just putting that across to you, and thank you for the thoughts that you have shared. I think next year, dig deeper into that. Translate him now, even if you still have to stick with the quantum law there, but I think pull more of the development budget here for increasing now the portion, from our development donors, donor partners, increase the development spending. But right now, I'm not look good a little bit. Those that are reading us will say, how more? 90 here, 94%?
94%
on recurrent and 5% on development.
Budget, yeah.
That is the recurrent development ratio, within your own sector. So a little bit ting no more, which I thought that you may shift him a little bit now. Normal thinking, blue you look low number no more into the structural aspect of the budget now. So thank you so much now.
But Chair, can I ask you a
Yes,
question?
please. Yes.
Yeah, because, okay, so I like the discussion. But what's your views in relation to that need to grow the economy? Therefore, we have to invest as a country in the productive and resource center. Because we in the ministry, we are a consumer organization, but we produce the skills that are required by the economy.
You are in the productive sector.
So how do you strike a balance in terms of the proportion that we should strike so that there is clear indication of how much, what percentage of the budget we should spend on the productive sector or the resource sector who are producing the revenue, and ministries like my ministry, which is equally important, but is a consumer organization.
So the way to see it is that the earning capacity of the labor force right at the end, Emerson. Because a labor service that is bought from that labor is an income to the country, wherever you may be, whether it be within the country, serving in our own industries, or elsewhere, Muslim. So you are also the determinant of the ability of consumers in this country to be able to earn something and spend into the economy, Muslim. So I wouldn't treat you like extractive productive sectors, that hemlo there you get converted into other forms of commodities. No, you shouldn't be in that way. This is a highly intelligent kind of a product that the nation will continue to have. So in a situation that we are having right now where country is facing problem in managing, first of all, because of the structural issues that we are facing and also policy issues too, in the way that we are pursuing investment in our extractive industries, you cannot wait here. We have to move into the service sector. And I think the right place for us to be able to attract that investment into Solomon Islands for something better for Solomon Islands into the future is education and health. But the most attractive one will be education. So the Asian Development Bank have not done anything wrong at all. They have chose the right sector to invest that money into Solomon Islands for the future. You remember when we gained independence in 1978, the first huge loan that we got was for what? Education sector. The World Bank 1, Education 1, 2, and 3. I managed the 2 and 3. Of course, we have some other problem, and those problems are not unique too. Still same one no more. But that's how we keep our economy going. So don't shy away in putting up your hands and coming up with your thinking in the way that you think that you are here to be able to draw that investment into Solomon Islands for the future of our country. And it will repay itself, the question is where the risk came higher or lower in terms of, the kind of combination of that financing coming in. If it is a fully grant, that's fine. If we go for concessional loan, that where the risk can be lies. Sometimes, donors will always go to where the low risk is, primary and secondary. They don't want to go for the tertiary. No. But I think what we need to do right now, we have done that in the past. Let us move into doing something because we need to convert more of our trained, educated, people to be a real asset into the future. So this is a very productive meeting here. We want to encourage you. I think when we show the budget on that mix, we all say, no more. I think let's put them into thinking. Reduce him now recurrent, increase him the development here. Even if you have to be able to find some creative ways to increase him now, development here, I think that is good. But finance is, as you can see in the document, low recurrent here, and I really want to congratulate finance for coming up with this, but what they need to do is to clean up the budget before coming up with the rules. So page 42, the recurrent and development budget ratio, which issues we have raised with them, that you've got to start coming up with the rules. Proper modeling, where the mix here, low financing goes. But low eval no more because high little bit no recurrent here. So we say, PS, please go back and then rethink him this one and put more into the development. A little bit reduce him no recurrent here. But so far so good. Thank you now.
Thank you.
Please, Any other question to the? Well, PS, this is a very, very interesting afternoon for all of us. And I just want to say to your team, you have a good resourcing. We are quite pleased to see that. The trend keep coming up. The combination the increase year on year, I think you have the biggest increase. Yeah, some 22%, I think, yeah. We have not factored in what are non-appropriated, yeah. Emotion. The one believe for you report Kamalem Longo during the course of 2026. Just on that ratio, recurrent and development and no more, little bit put him some effort no more for increasing a little bit not development and reducing low recurrent here. But I think you have a much better platform to work on. The education, new Education Act, what are the investment alongside law development, more on recurrent, but by him still. And then other issues where you guys said today on scholarship, I think, yeah, me agree law everything we tell him today on the scholarship. Or professional ones, yeah. I mean, before, as you know, you mean go with one rule, no more, you fail, you come back now, yeah. So I don't quite like order go enjoy him.
Yeah.
An extra privilege, yeah. Yeah? No more. Him almost when you sign up a scholarship, it's a contract. It's just like that. I'm going to earn a qualification for Solomon Islands. Just like a contractor who is contracted to go and do him up na road here. If he does it badly, he's the same. Same what man we failure no more here. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, members of your team, congratulations. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much for participating with this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman.